Welcome to What is Going for new thought from the edge of Each week on Time's flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandy Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Here is your host, Sandy Sedgbeer.
Hello, welcome. In a first for this show, today's episode will include a screening of the powerful short documentary, A Radical Guide to Reality, which shares how scientific breakthroughs are converging with universal wisdom teachings to reveal that our entire universe meaningfully exists and purposefully evolves as an interdependent and a unified entity, and that we're not inseparable from each other, Gaia, and the entire universe. Joining me to share the inspiration behind the film, its goals, and how you can participate in helping it to smash its target of 1 million views is cosmologist, planetary healer, and futurist Dr. Jude Currivan, who's the award-winning author of the books The Cosmic Hologram and The Story of Gaia. Dr. Jude Currivan, welcome back to the show.
Sandy, it's always a delight to be with you. And I'm so glad we're together for what I think for me is a very special event. This movie was a long time coming.
Well, that was going to be my opening question, actually. Because I know that it's a project very close to your heart and to the heart of the organisation that you co-founded, Whole World .view. It's wholeworld-view.org. Yeah. And in addition to writing and also narrating the movie and executive producing it, it has taken 16 years to make it, to the public. So why did it take so long?
Well, I'm a great believer in perfect timing. Even as you and I both know, that can take longer than we might like it to. I really had the idea for the film and also the title for the film, as you mentioned, 16 years ago. But I also realized that 16 years ago, I hadn't written The Cosmic Hologram by then. I hadn't written The Story of Gaia by then. And the sort of evidence that really grounds the movie and those books across all scales of existence and many, many different fields of research, which means that we can share its message with really foundational evidence and authenticity and integrity, is the evidence was not there to the extent that it is now. And you've seen what the last 16 years has brought in terms of that incredible increase in this evidential base. So the timing is perfect. And also, as the world is as it is at the moment, a message that offers, I feel, authentic hope and empowerment and inspiration, and a reality that we are inseparable from each other, I think is a really important, vital message now. So I would say the timing is perfect, even though I was hot to trot, as they say, 16 years ago. I'm so glad that it's now.
Were you planning to write the books back then, or were they not even in your mind at that point?
Not even in my mind at that point.
So it was more of an intention and a dream than something that you had your eye on, that could manifest.
It was more a sense that one day this will be, or that one day this will happen. And I trust that. I always trust that. And so, over that long period of time, there were opportunities that might have resulted in the film, but they never came to anything. But I just kept going. So it was also a lesson for me in terms of just keep on keeping on. If the idea still has validity, and it has ever greater, I think, validity, its time will come.
Yeah. So the movie was presented in Oxford's iconic examination hall, which is interesting because it was presented 51 years after you earned your master's degree in the same venue. That must have been a really sweet moment for you.
It was sweet and surreal in a way.
Yeah, I'm
And a
sure.
very, I mean, I remember how nervous I was in those examination halls 51 years ago. And then now, at the beginning of September, it was just joyous. And we had, over 300 people participating in the Eurotas conference. And that was hosted by Aleph Trust, and Les Lancaster, who heads up Aleph Trust, is my co-producer for the film. And he and I introduced it. So it's just a lovely moment to share. And that began a whole series of premieres and watch parties that are ongoing. And thank you again for inviting me to share this together, with your community.
Who wouldn't want to share it? It is a really beautiful film, beautifully produced, stunning imagery. And you had some wonderful support, didn't you? And a grant from Purpose Earth to help fund it and so that you could keep it free for people.
I did. Purpose Earth were a very early supporter of us, but the main supporter was not Purpose Earth. The supporter that really enabled the film to be is a private foundation, who have been incredibly wonderful. Purpose Earth are fabulous at offering smaller grants to startups, but we really needed a full film budget to make this happen. So it was another foundation, and the president of whom was in that room to watch
Oh,
it. So that
wonderful.
was also wonderful.
So how did you find the whole? I mean, you're used to writing books. You've written the script, you narrated the movie, you executive produced it. Quite different from writing books. How did you find that process?
Do you know, and I don't know if you feel this, but I just love creativity and creative projects.
Mm.
And for me, the script came straight away. And then I was very fortunate because the sound engineer for the two audio versions of The Cosmic Hologram and The Story of Gaia, Nikolai Bogdan Bratis, is also an amazing composer. So he actually composed the music and the soundscape for the film. But then we needed a director and a photographer, a director of photography. And he had been to university with Ivan Moreira and Tom Lithwaite, and we invited them into the project to be the project team with Bogdan. And my goodness, what a team! Amazing team. And it was very much, I guess, my vision. And as a director, you know, a lot of directors, I think, don't like producers having such a clear vision because, that's what they do. But it was such an amazing co-creative effort. And all of them, and especially Ivan and Tom, we worked together very closely for the look of the film. And they had some amazing ideas, incredible graphics. And to be honest, the budget we had, the film actually, when people have said how much did it cost, and occasionally I tell them, they're thinking it must have cost 10 times that amount. The thought is that the film would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it didn't because of the commitment of
Yes.
the production team and everybody else working for free, including myself. So,
Mm.
you know, it was a labour of love, as you say.
Yeah, well, we'll watch the film in a few moments. First, I want to say that you co-founded the Whole World View in 2017, and the
Mhm.
first words we see on the website are "Welcome home," which immediately makes us feel at home. Tell us before we view the film, what are the goals of Whole World View?
To serve the understanding, the experiencing, and the embodying of unitive awareness. It's really to serve conscious evolution. It's to serve the remembering, as right at the end of the film, our sort of heroine, Jen says, to remember who we really are and who we can evolve to become. So that's the real, not the goal. I'm not very good at goals. They're usually an own goal. If I set out goals, they're usually an own goal. So I tend to sort of attune and align with what's flowing through and then aim to serve it as best I can. And that's the aim and ongoing aim with Whole World View, and it's very much the aim of the film.
Well, let's watch that movie now.
Everything breathes. People breathe. Plants breathe. Planets breathe. Our whole universe breathes. Our universe began to breathe nearly 14 billion years ago. Instead of the implied chaos of a Big Bang, it began as the first moment of a wonderfully fine-tuned, beautifully ordered, and ongoing big breath. Like a baby, it was born as simple as possible to be able to grow and vitally to evolve. As its big breath continued, with space expanding from its minuscule birth and time flowing from past to present to future, its evolutionary journey from simplicity to complexity and ever greater levels of diversity and self-awareness led from hydrogen and helium to stars and galaxies and eventually to planets and plants and people. The hydrogen in the water of our bodies and in the waters of our planetary home Gaia is only a few minutes younger than our universe. All else that makes up us and Gaia was created in stars billions of years ago. Our story is the story of our universe. Yet what really is the reality of our universe? And who really are we? Instead of a story of separation, scientific breakthroughs are now discovering and converging with indigenous and other wisdom teachings to reveal that our entire universe exists and evolves as a wholly unified entity, with everything interrelated and interdependent with everything else. Despite its appearance of solidity, though, physical reality, while real, is actually 99.999999999% no thingness, and its material appearance isn't its deeper nature. Evidence at all scales is discovering that its energy and matter and space and time are its appearance, not its deeper nature. Showing that its appearance emerges from more fundamental and non-physical levels of cosmic intelligence and causation. Underlying causation and all-pervasive cosmic intelligence that, expressing itself as information, is the fundamental substance of our universe. Information, though, that isn't expressed as random data, but vitally as meaningful information that literally informs all we call reality. Meaningful information that's expressed in complementary ways as the energy and matter space, and time appearance of our universe. And as we are learning from the study of black holes, our entire universe is a vast cosmic hologram. Its wholeness existing and evolving in the interdependent complexity of its informed and diverse parts. The alphabet of its informational language is the simplest possible, with only 2 letters, 1 and 0. Just as in our digitized technologies, they're combined meaningfully to inform and make up all we call reality, from hydrogen to stars to planets and plants and people. Like our digitized technologies and holograms, universal digitized information is pixelated. The scale of our universe's pixelation, though, is more than 1 trillion times smaller than our best high-definition technologies. As small as to the size of an atom is to our entire universe. Named after Max Planck, one of the greatest pioneers of quantum theory, from the minute pixelated Planck scale, the holographic appearance of our universe arises. The relational and dynamic informational patterns and processes of its wholeness are being discovered at all scales of existence, from atoms to planets to vast clusters of galaxies, to all of space and time. And through many fields of research, from physics, chemistry, biology, and planetary sciences, to studies of collective human behaviours, all with their complex appearances underpinned by so-named holotropic attractor patterns of information. Instead of a great object, our universe is being revealed as a great informational and finite thought in the infinite and eternal mind of the cosmos. We don't have mind and consciousness. We and the whole world are mind and consciousness. While we are each unique, we are inseparable from each other, our planetary home, and our entire universe. And we are each microcosmic co-creators of its magnificence and evolutionary impulse. We are family members of its vast communities of life. This is who we really are. Our unified, conscious, and essentially living universe not only meaningfully exists, but purposefully evolves. Its emergence not random, but continually and informationally guided. By around 5.5 billion years ago, interstellar clouds of molecular hydrogen, stardust, and ice had evolved to provide all the complex combinations of elements to birth planetary systems and enable biological life to emerge. The shockwaves from the explosion of a nearby star then caused such a cloud to gravitationally collapse, not in chaos, but into a protoplanetary disk, whose harmonically resonant orbits of its emerging planets surrounding a central protostar would further evolve to form our sun and solar system. Vitally for us, Gaia's place in our planetary family is perfect. In the habitable zone, not too hot and not too cold, but just right. And as a water planet, to become a home for the evolution of biological organisms. Gaia's sentience is, however, embodied not only in her biological organisms, but also throughout her planetary rocks and minerals, waters and atmosphere that form an interdependent Gaiosphere that has nurtured the continuing emergence of complexity for over 4 billion years. From the very beginning, unchanged ever since, and the same throughout all Gaia's biosphere, the DNA and RNA genetic code has informationally enabled their intricate evolution from the simplest cells to the most complex ecosystems. Crucially, informational DNA is not passive, but responsive to signals, and so able to communicate and express its genes in different ways, with biological evolution driven not by random mutations, but by proactive and beneficial responses and adaptations. Meaningful informational processes guide emergence, and with collaborative relationships of organisms, ecosystems, and the entire Gaiosphere, enabling not only gradual change, but sometimes radical and rapid transformation. Yet we've forgotten that we're inseparable from each other, Gaia, and our whole universe. As a result, we've come to a tipping point as a species and as a planet. To evolve to greater complexity, organisms throughout Gaia's long story have learned to cooperate. To survive and thrive, we can't go on behaving as we have been. We can learn to come together to be a planetary species and stewards of our planetary home as Gaians. This is our moment of choice. Based on the evidence we now have, to remember that we're inseparable. And realise too that our own conscious evolution can play a vital role in Gaia's own evolutionary progress and purpose.
This is who we can remember we really are. This is who we can evolve to become.
Welcome back. Dr. Jude Currivan. I want to talk about some of the evidence that you share. There's a PDF on your website, on the Whole Worldview website, that is really fascinating, and people can go there and download it for themselves. But there's so much compelling evidence now that shows things like digitized information the basis of our most sophisticated technologies, also underpins and makes up all physical reality. I mean, that's a bit mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
Can you explain that to me?
Well, one of the reasons, Sandy, for actually making the film is that in 14 minutes, it sort of takes us through this story, both of that underpinning and framing, and I'll come back to it, but also the story of our universe, and therefore the story of ours, from this perspective. And, we all know, what is it, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So, 14 minutes where we see the evidence, where we're taken through this story, we're invited into this understanding. And what we're also doing, in addition to what's already, as you mentioned, on Whole World View, we're putting together, along with the film, a glossary of terms, some questions that people might want to ask themselves, or in a schoolroom, or whatever it may be. How does the film make them feel? How does it help, open their eyes, as it were, see the world through a new lens, all of that. And also additional resources that, instead of the science of the unity of science, which you mentioned the PDF for, which gives loads and loads and loads and loads of examples and references for the evidence, we're going to add resources to other videos, to other ways of exploring this. But basically, yes, the evidence is so compelling that meaningful information, and this is vital, not just random data, but meaningful information underpins the appearance of our universe, the appearance of energy and matter and space and time. When we drill down deeper and deeper and deeper, deeper, first of all, we've known for a long time that the apparent solidity of the physical universe is an illusion. When we drill down, it becomes 99 followed by 12.9% no thingness. It's real, but it's incredibly tenuous. And yet, because of the way quantum physics works, which means that no particle can occupy the same moment in space, it means that, so there's not that merging. It means that there's that appearance of separation, but it is an illusion. At the very deepest levels of the causation that arises as the appearance of our universe are patterns of information, patterns that are pixelated at the most minute scale of existence, as the film talks about, named after Max Planck, one of the great pioneers of quantum physics. It's at that tiny scale, with all the ones and the zeros, which is the universal alphabet, of themselves, just as in our digital technologies, the strings of ones and zeros, well, the ones and zeros themselves don't have a meaning. But when we bring them together, whether it's in our digital technologies or as our universe does, they combine meaningfully to then build up to much larger scales of atoms and molecules and planets and plants and people. And because the evidence is showing this across all scales of existence, across many different fields of research, again, as the film shares very briefly, but beautifully, and therefore I think compellingly in its story, I think we're almost predisposed, because our technologies are based on this. It's not such a big leap anymore to go, oh, okay, the appearance of our universe, this is the basic stuff. But I really want to stress, I am not talking about our universe being a simulation. No. I am not talking about, us being the creation of some advanced ETs. What I'm talking about here, and we both know this, is that this is showing that mind and consciousness aren't something we have. They're what literally we and the whole world are. And it's cosmic mind, cosmic intelligence, sentience that is actually creating the appearance of our universe in the simplest and yet most incredible way possible, because it's from that basic fundamental simplicity that all the wonderful complexity of our world emerges and evolves.
A lot of people like me who, didn't go too far into the study of science find finds it completely mind-blowing. But there's a lot of things that are in that PDF that really bring it down to earth, and it speaks to the world that most of us know. I mean, for example, you talk about that the information gives a scientific basis to the countless examples of supernormal consciousness, such as telepathy, remote viewing, near-death experiences. When people hear that there is actually scientific evidence for these things, they sit up and take notice. And that's not the only things that you've talked about. I mean, you've talked about the patterns and the fractals which are reflected in our behaviours, including movements of stock market prices, email, snail mail. Now, can you kind of explain how all of those things are affected by the cosmos?
Well, we are the cosmos. I mean, we are literally inseparable, as you said earlier, from each other, from our planetary home Gaia, from literally the whole of our universe. And what is beautiful, and what this evidence is showing, and to say that what's called universal non-locality, was awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics in 2022, and that's settled science. So what we're seeing is a universe that, as you mentioned earlier, meaningfully exists to purposefully evolve from simplicity to ever greater complexity, but it does so as a unitive whole. Now, within space-time, nothing can go, no signal can go faster than the speed of light, and that's vital, because otherwise there wouldn't be a flow of time from the beginning of the universe, nearly 14 billion years ago. There wouldn't be any causality within space-time, and yet there is. The laws of physics couldn't work, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So within the space-time as we know it, there is all of that playing out, and yet at the same time, our universe exists and evolves as this whole unitive entity. So it knows itself through its entirety of its life cycle, which also means that there is awareness that transcends space-time, that transcends that limit, the speed limit of the speed of light. That's why supernormal phenomena like telepathy, as you say, and synchronicities are natural phenomena in such a unitive universe. So it's a both and. And this is what really was the conundrum that has been running for 100 years within the mainstream science, because scientists aren't good at both and. They're great at either ors, but they're not so great at both and. And what we're realizing is it's a both and, both within space-time, nothing goes faster than the speed of light, and all of that entails, and also our universe exists and evolves as a unitive, conscious, sentient entity, which means that we are microcosmic co-creators, which means that we are able, with individuated self-awareness, to still be part of its wholeness, which is why these supernormal phenomena, we are naturally able, they are our heritage, they are who we are.
But how can these fractals reflect things like internet traffic and these movements of stock market prices? I mean, we think we're in control of all of this. We're not, obviously.
The beauty is each of us make our own individual choices. So I'm not going to say that we don't have free will. I think there's a whole series of nuances. We could have a whole show on the nuances of free will, but I would say no. First of all, two things I think are really important. The universe began 13.8 billion years ago in its tiniest, simplest state. Ever since then, as space has expanded and time's flowed, more and more and more information has been able to be expressed and experienced within it. Hence the journey from simplicity to complexity, the evolutionary story to us. The future is not yet written. The future continues to open in each moment going forward. So although the laws of physics remain the same from the beginning of the universe's life cycle to the end, its story, just as the story of a human being, it still has its future, still has our future to play out. We are its microcosmic co-creators. We have our individual choices, because it's this both and. and we are inseparable from its wholeness. Together, we also play out, depending on the levels of our awareness collectively and many other factors, play out the same patterns that we find in what we might call the natural world. So, for example, as you say, when we look at the internet, all the nodes in the internet, the websites, the URLs, the connectivity, when we analyze that, it has the same fractal patterning as the relationships within an ecosystem. Yeah. When we look at stock market fluctuations, they're very complex, but at simpler levels, they reflect the same sort of fractal patternings as do coastlines or river systems. When we look, for example, at the frequency and the destructive power of earthquakes, we find that they actually, when we plot them on a graph, they have the same relationships as do human conflicts, because everything is part of universal sentience, including each of us and the whole of us. But if we can have an attractor pattern for conflict, we can evolve our collective consciousness to an attractor pattern for peace. And this is what this awakening is about.
You know, I heard probably something like 20 years ago that in places where there is a lot of conflict, a lot of strife, people marching, people getting angry, etc., you will often find something happens with the earth energy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've kind of told people that over the years, and they go, oh, don't be silly. But to see it, you know, now written in your PDF was, wow, it was true. It is true.
It is true. And as someone who serves planetary healing, you know, I know from many decades of experiential research and work here, you know, when you go to a battlefield, you can feel the human trauma imprinted on it. I mean, it's on an everyday basis. Have you ever walked into someone's home and you know they've just been rowing? You just know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about cutting the atmosphere with a knife. Well, yes. And so, you know, given this understanding, of course there are the relationships, whether they are, you know, healthy or not, or toxic, between humans and our planetary home. There's some wonderful work that is being done by a friend of mine, Rolin McCraty, and Heart Math, knowing that our heart resonance has resonance with Gaia. Our mind resonance has less of, you know, has Schumann resonance with Gaia. We are profoundly interdependent on all of these levels with our planetary home. So of course, when there is sort of schisms in Gaia's planetary field, then they can spill over to human schisms and vice versa. There is that relationship that is unbreakable. It's who we are and how we are.
Well, you know, people need to have these concrete examples, and they need to be verified by science for them to actually believe that what they think and how they behave is affecting the environment all around them.
Absolutely. As you say, whether we're aware of it or not, we are always receiving and transmitting information.
Yeah.
And we're aware of it as well, which is why these supernormal phenomena, you know, there's so much evidence for example, telepathic communications, ions. People like Dean Radin are doing exemplary work in showing this, but there are many other, as I say, Heart Math and many other research centres that are bringing forward the evidence. What I'm showing, or what we're showing, actually in that PDF you refer to, aren't those researchers. They're researchers who are doing, if you like, mainstream work, as we could call it, but are realizing that the old paradigm of materialism and separation cannot explain their discoveries, cannot explain their evidence.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting time to be alive, especially those of us who really like to play where science and spirituality meet, because it's like, finally, at last, the evidence is there and people, you know, can't gainsay it anymore.
No, they can't. I mean, I wrote an article, an academic article, last October, and have been, off the back of that, I've been invited to speak at something like 20 or more international conferences. all on actually climate change, environmental, ecology, these sort of things. I'm getting very involved, as we've discussed before, in opportunities to sort of look at transformation in economics and all across our fields of behaviours and collective comings together. Because when we see the world through a lens of separation, we've behaved as we have been. When we change to see the world through a lens of wholeness and unity and diversity, we behave in very different ways.
We do. The movie's free, and obviously, we've played it here. It's available on YouTube. I think it's available on Whole World View. There are groups all around the world I've heard about that bring people together in small community to watch and discuss documentaries just like this one. Do you have a plan for such groups to be able to get screeners from you, to share with, their community, etc.? Or do you refer everybody to YouTube?
It varies. If I'm aware of and connecting with various communities, then I will have that connection. And there've been a number of watch parties to come and ongoing in that. And we're just inviting and encouraging everybody who becomes aware of the film to share the word as widely as possible, because it is freely available, both to view and to share. Anyone who wants to connect with me, I can send them an MP4 of the film, and it's in 17 languages, from Arabic to Ukrainian. So, if anybody, I'm having a watch party with an institute on the west coast of America in a couple of weeks' time that have a lot of Asian and Chinese students. The film is subtitled in Chinese, one of those languages. So anyone who wants to contact me, I'll also be very happy to send them an MP4 version of the film, either without subtitles or with the subtitles of their own community. I've just shared it. Alexander Laszlo, Irvin's son, who lives in Buenos Aires, who I work with, asked if he could have the Spanish version. So he's sharing that. I've said to him, you can also have the Portuguese version. So the translator who did our Ukrainian version is a teacher in Kyiv. And with everything going on there, she felt so strongly about the beneficial nature of the message of the film to do that. And we're also producing an educational content, a wraparound that then can be used in any which way by any educators around the world, because the film's for young people and truth seekers of all ages. So there's a lot of work going on, but everyone, Sandy, if they see it on YouTube and like it, please have watch parties. And we've got those questions coming up as well that those watch parties might like to ask themselves. So that's all in train.
It's a great thing that you could show to your family. And I told you so kind of movie, isn't it? You don't believe me? Watch this.
I don't want to be to blame for any family dispute.
Well, I can think of, many people that I would like to show it to. And obviously schools are natural,
Yes.
for showing a movie like this. And the movie features young people.
Very much.
What was their reaction to the information?
They
As
loved it.
They did?
They did. Well, there were two lots of young people. There was the cast, who were extraordinary. And I felt very strongly that I wanted the last words of the script, because when I wrote it, the original idea had been that I would be the narrator for the whole script, and obviously I am for the majority of it. But I felt so strongly that those last words should be spoken by Jen, our heroine, whose real name is Faith, and the cast were exemplary. And the focus group that we also acknowledge in the rolling credits loved it. I mean, we did with the 5 original focus group young people a 1 to 2 minute quick. It was filmed on the time of the focus group by Jessica Bockler of their reaction. And what came forward was they're saying things like, before I watched the movie, I didn't know whether I had meaning or purpose. I now know that I do, and I now know that I belong. The word belong came through so powerfully. And we
Yeah.
don't even use that word, I don't think. We might do. I think that we might say it once in the movie, but clearly that sense of belonging is so deep
Yes.
with
Yeah.
people who've seen the movie.
The other word that goes along with that is the becoming, because
Yes.
it shows us that, there's so much more.
Yes.
And we can be so much more.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's the exciting part. So what is actually in these packages that, the educational packages? I mean, if somebody's watching who is a teacher and would love to, contact you about this, what would they find in these packages?
Well, first of all, we're going to put everything on Whole World View when we're ready, and that will probably be early next year. It's only going to be, it's going to first of all be a glossary of terms, which may be unfamiliar. Secondly, there'll be the sort of questions that they might want to invite in an educational capacity. Thirdly, we're going to put some suggested experiential, fun things to play with some of the concepts. I mean, one is that if you take our DNA, for example, our DNA is usually coiled up into a tiny 4-level fractal within each cell of our bodies. But if we stretch 1 cell's worth of DNA out, it's 2 meters across. In a 30 plus trillion cell body, such as each of us have, that stretches across our solar system, one person's DNA. For 8 billion people, the entire DNA of our human family stretches 10 times the visible diameter of our Milky Way galaxy. I mean, if you take that and start playing with that and expanding that and, and experiencing that, there's lots of others. So we'll put that on there as well. And then the final thing is we will do some sort of other resources. So I'll put a whole package on there. It will be fairly basic, because what we're realizing with the film in 17 languages, with so many different educational environments, that, we're inviting educators, teachers to take that forward in a way that works best for them and the young people in their care. And we're also working with pioneers of holistic education who themselves have networks and networks and networks of schools and educators, so that they can tailor whatever they would like for their communities to take it forward. So that's top of our, one of the things that are top of the, the list of doing at the moment.
It takes, I mean, organizations like schools, that particular industry, it takes them a very long time to embrace change and to change what they're teaching. And what you're offering probably is quite at odds with what many kids are currently learning in science. And it's going to keep on changing.
Sure, absolutely. Well, this is why it's both and again, because, we can speak directly to on the website and share this, the next couple, 2-3 months with as widely as you can. But by working with leaders in holistic education, so people like the Global Education Futures people and many others, they already have these bow wave initiatives that are in hundreds of thousands of educational facilities. And obviously what we will do once we put the what we'll put on the Whole World View website, we'll also link to their websites and their organisations. So there's a sort of a mycelium network growing, so that if you're an individual educator, you've got places to go to help. If you're not already part of those networks. So that's very much a key next steps of the project. But we just wanted to get the film out there and start its, as a baby, start to spread by word of mouth. So I think we've had about 15,000 views in just over a month. And again, it's very quietly finding its feet, and we'll continue to do that and spread the word. And thank you again over these coming months. and
Well, I
years.
hope our audience will also share it. I mean, that is the
I
goal.
hope so.
In the short time that, since you started making this movie, the science, I mean, it's changing so fast. We're learning
It
so
is.
much. What don't we yet know that you know that we're going to discover next?
Or even better, what don't I know? And that's a lot. um, I think the great thing is this is the direction of travel. As of yet, I've not seen any evidence that refutes this direction of travel. And, there may be people who don't want to acknowledge this, but there are leading scientists and more leading scientists who are good. They will follow the evidence where it leads, and this is where it's leading. And so in that regard, my sense is that it will deepen, it will broaden, we'll fill in the pieces, but we are still at the beginning of this incredible adventure. Because as you said earlier, Sandy, it's inviting us to really wake up to who we really are and who we can become. And we really don't know who we can become. I don't know who we can become. But I feel it's the most incredible invitation of the universe to become co-evolutionary partners with its ongoing evolutionary impulse and our beloved planetary home Gaia's ongoing evolutionary impulse. Because it seems to me if we do awaken and move into this great new adventure, which is also an ancient remembering with our indigenous, kin and communities, nonetheless, it is evolutionary. We've never been here before. And what an incredible opportunity and invitation it is.
Yeah. We know that we are at a time where it's almost like the world is splintering too, with so much, division. What you've said in that PDF, gives us real solid insight into the fact that, how we behave is going to affect everything around us. I mean, you look at things like just the floods in Spain that have been happening, and you think about what's been happening in Spain, which has also had its problems for some time with a lot of, people, uprisings and various things going on. When we look at that and we look at global warming, then we have to start taking that to heart and changing things. Do you feel hopeful, confident that we will get a grip on this?
I am hopeful, but I wouldn't necessarily focus on that. I trust the universe. I trust that our universe is both a living and loving universe. And by loving, I mean, because it essentially is whole. It is whole, and it's taken this incredible journey over 14 billion of years now to get us to this point. I truly believe it's inviting us to wake up, to continue on our journey, to continue on this amazing adventure. And I also feel that if we don't wake up, Gaia will go on without us. The universe will go on without us. So in that sense, it's not about hope. It's about, for me, it's what incredible privilege we actually have to be here and now at this time. What incredible privilege it is to be a microcosm of this vast wonder that is our universe. And so with that privilege, how could I not, on a personal level, this is how I feel, how could I not show up, get out of the way and serve that incredible impulse and that amazing ongoing journey? And so it doesn't really matter whether I have hope or not, because that's the only way I can respond to the miracle that is us and the miracle that is our universe.
Do you think you'll make another movie? Will there be a sequel?
I hope so, because this has always been seen as the first little calling card. It's 14 minutes, and then with rolling credits, 16. So, I really would love us to be able to work together with a major global streaming platform to create something like a six 1-hour episodic series to take this much deeper. And that then would only be the next step, because I'd love to then go on and say, okay, now what then? This is it. This is our amazing reality. But then what do we do about it? And then go into the stories and the potential and the possibilities of what that could mean.
Yeah. And in the meantime, you're still writing the third book in your trilogy.
Well, it's not quite getting to the point of writing me, Sandy, but it is
Knocking at the
gestating.
door. Yeah.
I hope so, yeah. I hope so.
So what is that going to be about? I know you talked about, the first one was about the cosmos, the second one was about Gaia, and the third one is going to be about us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you tell me any more than that?
Many years ago, going back almost around the 16 years to when the movie idea came through, was this sense that I would be writing a trilogy at some point. I've written other books before that, of course, and that trilogy would be about transformation. And as you say, the third book about us. And so the title I was given then, if it remains a title, is Many Voices, One Heart. And I realise that the many voices are far, far, far beyond human voices, of course. They're the voices of the entire universe and its entire vast communities of life to us and including us. And that one heart is the heart of the universe soul.
Jude Currivan, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for making this movie. And I hope that our viewers will all join in and help to make this, exceed 1 million views.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you for everyone that's viewing this and sharing this journey with us. Thank you.
So for more information about Jude Currivan, The Whole World View, and the film A Radical Guide to Reality, visit 3 websites I'm going to give you: wholeworld-view.org, then there's judecurrivan.com, and purposefully.org. I'm Sandy Sedgbeer. I'll be back at the same time next week with another edition of What Is Going On. Till then, it's goodbye from me. And once again, many thanks to Jude Currivan, and good luck with surpassing that goal.
Thank you.